On the day my sister and I were to choose our husbands, I found myself reborn with a peculiar ability. I could hear the thoughts of others. I heard my sister think, this time I'm definitely going to snag a good husband before anyone else. Then in a hurry she whisked away the gentle husband I had married in my previous life. The abusive man who had tormented her daily was left. For me, I couldn't help but smile. Did she really think the man I had married before was of good character? I had been reborn on the very day my sister was to choose her husband. Across the dining table sat two men of similar age. One was Finn, the eldest son of the Parker family known for his aloof demeanor. The other was Leo, the younger son, a product of an affair, but with a gentle disposition. This time I'm definitely going to snag you. My sister's voice echoed in my ears. I glanced at her, but she wasn't speaking aloud. Her eyes were fixed intently on Leo. I'm going to take you away. It dawned on me that not only had I been reborn, but I could also hear my sister's thoughts. From her words, it was clear she had experienced a rebirth as well. Sure enough, the next moment, she moved to sit beside Leo, gazing at him shyly. Samantha. I like you, she said sweetly. Suddenly my father chimed in. Rachel, since your sister has chosen Leo, you should marry Finn. At this, my sister's eyes gleamed with triumph as she thought, this time, you'll take my place and endure the beating. In my previous life, my sister had married Finn. He was a successful businessman, always busy and notoriously cold. Despite her repeated attempts to connect with him, she was met with bruises and rejection. Eventually, due to her inability to conceive, Mrs. Parker deemed her unfit and cast her out of the Parker family. As for me, I had married Leo. Though he held no power in the family, he provided enough for me to live comfortably. He spent his days with me, taking me shopping and dining, showering me with affection. Everyone in the Parker family knew we were happy together. Then unexpectedly Finn died from poisoning, and Leo inherited the family business. My status in the family skyrocketed. Jealous of my fortune, my sister drove her car into me while I was out shopping, leading to our mutual demise. Sure, Dad. I actually like Finn too, I replied with a smile, moving to sit beside him. I had to admit Finn's presence was imposing. Sitting next to him felt like being enveloped in a cold aura that made it hard to speak. No wonder my sister had suffered so much at his hands in the past. I tried to listen to his thoughts, but he was silent. However, when Leo looked over at my sister with a smile, I caught a glimpse of his thoughts. What a beautiful little darling. A chill ran down my spine. Instinctively, I reached for Finn's hand. Though he was cold in demeanor, his hand was surprisingly warm. At my touch, he glanced over and I quickly let go, relieved he didn't say anything. Despite his intimidating appearance, I felt that being with him was better than being with Leo, whom I considered a snake. This time I was determined to change my previously tragic fate. I wanted to earn a fortune, be independent, and not rely on anyone. My sister and I were to have a joint wedding. In my previous life, we had also held it around this time. Back then, Finn hadn't attended the ceremony, while Leo had arrived bright and early. Everyone remarked that he was the more considerate husband. As expected, this time was no different. Leo, dressed in a white suit, rushed to sweep my sister off her feet as he passed by me. He looked back with a smug expression. Samantha, why didn't Finn come to pick you up? I merely smiled. Don't worry about me. Just take care of yourself. Her face fell at my words. Laugh. Now, let's see if you can still laugh after you get beaten. With that thought, she descended the stairs with Leo. But it was too early to say anything. Who would end up laughing last was still uncertain. Finn's absence from the wedding led to much gossip, just like in my previous life, and we both received judgmental glances. My sister was even more delighted, eagerly telling Leo, I love you, Leo. Then she kissed him, her lips glistening as she turned to stare at me. I knew she wanted to see me squirm, but I wasn't foolish enough to react like I had in my previous life, storming out in anger. That would only give the guests and the Parker family more ammunition against me. I remembered how they had criticized my sister for being immature and unworthy of being the Parker family's daughter-in-law, which led to her suffering greatly at Mrs. Parker's hands. After the wedding, I took the microphone and smiled warmly at the guests below. Today Finn has an important business deal to attend to, so I'll be toasting on his behalf. I hope you all don't mind. At my words, the chatter ceased. Mrs. Parker, seated at the head table, looked at me with newfound respect. The Parker family was powerful and valued reputation above all, so as a daughter-in-law, I had to maintain my composure and act like a propeustas. My sister noticed Mrs. Parker's gaze and her eyes flashed with anger. How disgusting. I'll make sure you embarrass yourself during the tea ceremony. Honestly, I found it quite beneficial to hear thoughts. It was like having a golden ticket that made everything easier. When it was time for the tea ceremony, I gracefully lifted my dress and walked toward Mrs. Parker. My sister was fixated on me, silently counting 1, 2, 3, but I sidestepped to grab the tea, causing her to stumble and fall, soaking herself in the process. Are you okay? Leo rushed to help her, but in his mind, he scolded her. What a fool. Everyone turned to look at us. Mrs. Parker's face was a mask of fury. Clumsy. Do you even have the demeanor of a second daughter-in-law of the Parker family? I'm sorry, Mom. I didn't mean to. My sister quickly apologized, though her eyes betrayed her resentment. If I were her, I wouldn't act out this time. I would just live my life quietly. But since she didn't want me to have an easy life, I certainly wouldn't hold back either. Because of my sister's blunder, the wedding wrapped up hastily. Mrs. Parker had not given her a single kind glance throughout the event, but when she looked at me, her eyes were filled with satisfaction. She took my hand and said, Samantha, tonight I'll make sure Finn comes back to keep you company as compensation. As expected, Finn did return that evening. He opened the door, untying his tie. Exhaustion etched on his face. I hurried to fetch him some clothes. Finn, you must be tired today. He merely glanced at me, not responding. In my previous life, I had heard the servants say that Finn hadn't returned on our wedding night. My sister had been left alone in the bridal chamber, becoming the laughing talk of everyone. When she complained to Mrs. Parker, she was scolded for not being able to hold on to a man's heart. As Finn took a shower, I prepared the bed and brewed some tea. Then I tidied up the sofa, planning to sleep there alone. When Finn emerged, he looked surprised at the sight. I quickly said, You take the bed. I'll sleep on the sofa. Samantha, are you playing hard to get? He narrowed his eyes at me, his bathrobe slightly revealing his chest, droplets of water glistening on his skin. I had to admit he had a great physique. I quickly averted my gaze. No, it's just that we don't have any feelings for each other, and sleeping together would be awkward for both of us. If possible, I'd like to collaborate with you. What do you mean? After all, this is just a marriage of convenience. Many couples in similar situations live separately and just pretend to be together. I married you to have a secure life. I don't expect anything more. Hearing my words, he suddenly smiled. You're quite clever. I happen to feel the same way. I can agree to that. I was just an ordinary person lacking the skills to capture a man's heart. After all, in the Parker family, his attitude toward me depended on Mrs. Parker's opinion of me. I didn't want to end up like my sister in my previous life, facing hostility from everyone. That would bring me no benefits. Plus, he had been abusive to my sister before. I didn't want to provoke him and risk being hurt myself, so I chose to coexist peacefully with him this time. I only wanted to earn money, start my own company, and rise to success on my own. The next morning, I woke up early, careful not to disturb Finn. I tiptoed into the kitchen and prepared breakfast, recalling how in my past life my sister never once made a meal for her husband. She had always expected to be served, complaining about the Parker family's cold atmosphere. But I wanted to be different. Finn walked into the kitchen, his shirt slightly unbuttoned, his hair still wet from his shower. I offered him a cup of coffee. He raised an eyebrow. You cooked? I nodded. I thought it would be polite. You had a long day yesterday. He sat across from me and took a sip. No praise, no comment, just silence. But I was starting to understand that his silence was not always a form of coldness. Sometimes it was just how he existed. After breakfast, he grabbed his briefcase and said, "If you need anything, ask the driver. Don't go out alone. Some people in the family might test you." His words surprised me. Was that concern in his voice? I watched him leave and felt the first flicker of respect for a man I had once feared. This time maybe things could be different. Later that day, I met with Mrs. Parker. She examined me from head to toe, her eyes sharp and calculating. "You did well yesterday," she said. "Finally. Better than I expected." "Thank you, Mother," I replied with a calm voice, bowing slightly. "Your sister lacks discipline, but you might have some use. Keep her in check. And remember, what you do reflects on all of us." "Yes, I understand." As I left the room, I heard her thoughts. "So far so good. Let us see how long she lasts before crumbling like her sister." I smiled to myself. If only she knew I had lived this life once before, I would not crumble. In the days that followed, I kept myself busy with books and online courses. I wanted to sharpen my business skills. I even started tracking the Parker family subsidiaries, noting their weaknesses, studying their investments. This time, I would not just be a quiet wife. I would build something of my own. Meanwhile, my sister had started to face the coldness of reality. Leo, though still sweet on the surface, was starting to show signs of irritation. "You embarrassed me at the wedding. Could you be more graceful?" he said one evening as she knocked over a glass. During dinner, she pouted, clinging to his arm. "But you love me, right?" He smiled, but his thoughts were clear. "He is becoming more trouble than she is worth." I had no pity for her. She had wanted my past life and now she had it. One evening, Finn returned home unusually late. He looked exhausted. I hesitated, then brought him a cup of tea. "You really don't have to," he said, placing the cup aside. "I know. I just thought it might help," I replied softly. He stared at me for a moment, then looked away. "Tomorrow I will take you to a family dinner. You should get used to the rest of the clan." My chest tightened. In my past life, that dinner had been a disaster. My sister had worn a flashy red dress and laughed too loudly. The elders had been unimpressed. This time I would wear a modest outfit and keep quiet unless spoken to. At the dinner, whispers followed us as we entered. Most eyes were on Finn, but some turned to me. I bowed politely to each elder, offering greetings with respect and calmness. My sister arrived moments later with Leo, dressed in a revealing gown, her perfume overwhelming. She greeted the elders with exaggerated joy. "Uncle Marcus, you have not changed a bit. Aunt Leia, you look so young," she said, her voice overly sweet. One of the older ladies leaned toward Mrs. Parker and whispered, "Is she always like this?" Mrs. Parker nodded slightly, unimpressed. Dinner began, and soon the conversation turned to business. I kept quiet, listening, absorbing. "Sam," one of the uncles said suddenly, "what do you think of the new Parker initiative in the West region?" I blinked. Everyone turned to me. I read the proposal. "I believe the market there is saturated. But if we adjust the distribution strategy to target niche markets and cut unnecessary costs, we might increase profit by 15%. In the first quarter, there was a pause, then murmurs of agreement. Finn raised his glass slightly, a rare expression of approval on his face. After the dinner, as we rode home in silence, he finally spoke. "You are not what I expected." I turned to him. "Is that a good thing?" He did not answer, but his next words lingered in my mind. "Keep being like this. You will go far." My heart steadied. I was beginning to carve my place step by step, quietly and steadily. Later that night, my sister called me. You think you are clever, huh? Winning them over with that fake sweet act. But I will not let you steal the spotlight. I do not need to steal anything, I replied. You already gave it away. He hung up without another word. I lay in bed thinking about my journey ahead. This time I would not live under anyone's shadow. Not hers, not even Finn's. I would build my own light. Because I knew what was coming next. The scandals, the betrayal, the hidden family secrets. But I was ready. This time I was not just the supporting role. I was the one holding the script. Weeks passed and my days fell into a rhythm. I studied during the day, prepared meals when Finn came home, and quietly observed the shifting dynamics within the Parker family. I was not loud nor overly kind. I was simply present. And that in itself started to make waves. Mrs. Parker began inviting me to more events, charity luncheons, social teas, even foundation meetings. She never said it aloud, but I could tell she saw in me what she had never seen in my sister. Potential. I always dressed modestly and spoke with calm confidence. I never outshone anyone, but I never embarrassed anyone either. Slowly, people started turning to me for advice, for opinions. I was no longer invisible, but not everyone was pleased. One afternoon, while I was reviewing Parker business reports in the study, I heard soft footsteps approaching. My sister stepped in without knocking. So she said with a smile too sharp to be sincere, you are playing the perfect daughter-in-law now. I looked up. I am doing my best. That is all. She moved closer, her voice lowering. You think you are clever? You think you are better than me just because you can pour tea and smile for the elders? I said nothing. Her eyes narrowed. You forgot I know your weaknesses too. You think Finn will protect you? Wait until I remind him who you really are. I tilted my head. Remind him of what exactly? She froze. Just for a second, but it was enough. Her threat was empty. She had no weapon against me in this life, and she knew. Before she could speak again, a maid arrived, announcing that Mrs. Parker had requested our presence in the living room. We followed in silence. As we entered, we found Mrs. Parker seated, her hands folded tightly. A man in a tailored suit stood beside her holding a folder. This is Mr. Huang, she said. He is our legal advisor. There is a matter that needs to be addressed. My sister stepped forward eagerly. Is it about the foundation? I can help. Mrs. Parker's expression remained neutral. No, it concerned Samantha and Finn's prenuptial agreement. My heart skipped. In my past life, my sister had been tricked into signing a prenuptial contract that left her with nothing when she was cast out. But in this life, I had not signed anything yet. At least not that I remembered. Mr. Hang handed me a folder. This outlines the division of assets in case of separation. You are entitled to a modest allowance and one property. The company shares remain untouched. My sister smiled smugly, clearly pleased. I flipped through the document calmly, then looked up. I see, but I would like to propose an amendment. Mrs. Parker blinked. Amendment? Yes, I said. Instead of taking a property or allowance, I would like 10% shares in Parker subsidiary number 3. It is not profitable right now, but I believe I can turn it around. The room went silent. My sister gasped. Are you out of your mind? Mrs. Parker studied me, intrigued. And if you fail, then I take nothing, I replied. Let it be written in the contract. If I cannot turn a profit in 12 months, I walk away, empty-handed. Finn entered the room at that moment, his eyes scanning us. What is going on? I stood. Just a business arrangement between your mother and me. I asked for something risky. She is considering it. He raised an eyebrow. Explain. I handed him the folder and outlined my proposal. Again, after a moment of silence, Finn let out a low chuckle. Interesting. He looked at his mother. Let her try. No. One has touched that branch in years. If she can breathe life into it, she deserves those shares. Mrs. Parker still looked skeptical, but she finally nodded. Very well. You have 12 months. I bowed slightly. Thank you, mother. My sister stormed out of the room. Later that night, as I worked late into the evening reviewing financial reports, Finn returned to the study. He stood by the doorway, watching me for a while. You really think you can save that sinking branch? He asked. I do. He leaned against the wall. Most people ask for safety. You asked for pressure. I learn best under pressure. I replied. He gave a rare smile. I look forward to seeing what you can do. I didn't respond. I returned to the numbers, already planning how I would approach the failing business. I had memories from my previous life. I knew what mistakes had been made before. This time, I would correct them. That same week, I made my first visit to the subsidiary office. The building was smaller than the main headquarters. The staff looked bored. Paperwork piled on desks. There was no energy. I gathered everyone in the meeting room. I am Samantha Parker, I began. And as of this week, I am overseeing operations here. I am not here to punish anyone. I am here to build something with you. But make no mistake, there will be changes. And I will expect results. There were whispers, doubt, curiosity, but most importantly, attention. I left the office with a list of immediate changes. I cut redundant expenses, revised the marketing strategy, and brought in a small team of younger analysts I had met during my online course. It was not much, but it was a start. Back home, I barely slept. I worked into the night. I ignored the gossip in the main house. I tuned out the whispers of failure. I had taken the first step, and I was not turning back. 3 months had passed since I took over the failing subsidiary. Every morning, I arrived before the staff. Every night, I was the last to leave. The numbers began to shift. Slowly, orders increased. Client returned. The office no longer felt lifeless. At the main Parker estate, whispers about me turned into curious praise. Even Mrs. Parker started asking questions at dinner. How are the quarterly numbers coming along? She asked one evening. Spoon in hand, eyes fixed on me. I answered calmly. We have cut losses by 20% and regained 2 previous investors. I expect profit by the end of the fiscal year. She nodded. Slowly, a trace of approval on her face. Across the table, my sister's fork scraped her plate hard. Leo reached for her hand to calm her, but in his thoughts, I heard him clearly. This woman is starting to make me nervous. It was not just him. My growing success unsettled more people than I expected. One afternoon, I returned to my office to find a bouquet of red roses on my desk. No card, no name. The receptionist stepped in. A man dropped them off. Said it was a thank you for saving his company. Suspicious, I sniffed the flowers. Nothing strange, but still I had them thrown out. In my past life, my sister had received similar gifts, many of which were traps. Scandals had followed, photos leaked, rumors spread like fire. I would not make the same mistake. That evening, Finn returned home earlier than usual. I was reading a market report in the lounge. He sat across from me and said nothing for a while. Finally, he asked, "Who sent you flowers?" I closed the file calmly. I do not know. I had them thrown out. He raised an eyebrow. Smart. It caused a stir in the family group chat. Let them stir, I said softly. I have more important things to worry about. He smirked slightly. You were starting to sound like me. I looked up at him. Would that be a bad thing? No, he said after a pause. Not at all. Later that week, Mrs. Parker asked me to accompany her to a private charity auction. You will represent the Parker name, she said. Make sure you wear something from our sponsored designers. It was another test. I knew the auction would be full of elites, gossipers, competitors, and traps. I wore a long navy gown with minimal accessories, tied my hair back, and kept my makeup light. At the venue, cameras flashed the moment we stepped in. I stayed close to Mrs. Parker, nodding politely to everyone who greeted us. Then I saw her, Vanessa Lang, In my past life, Vanessa had been the woman who seduced Finn during a rough patch in his marriage. She had whispered lies into his ears, manipulating him into distrust and anger. She spotted me and glided over. "So this is the new Mrs. Parker," she said with a flawless smile. "I have heard mixed reviews." I tilted my head. "I am honored to be noticed at all." She leaned in. "He was colder than ice when I knew him. I hope you like sleeping alone." Before I could respond, Mrs. Parker returned to my side. "Vanessa, still talking too much." "I see." Vanessa's smile froze. Mrs. Parker slipped her hand around my arm. "Samantha is doing wonderfully. She turned our dead subsidiary into a rising star. You, on the other hand, seem to be clinging to old stories." Vanessa turned and walked away, her heels clicking with frustration. I whispered, "You defended me." Mrs. Parker smiled faintly. "You earned it." That night, I returned home, feeling something I had never felt toward her before: respect. Later, as I stood on the balcony sipping tea, Finn joined me. He stood beside me in silence. The city lights shimmered below. "You handled Vanessa well," he said. "I remembered what she did to you before. I thought you might appreciate if I ended it quickly." He nodded. "He lies easily. I once believed her. Never again." I looked at him sideways. "Do you trust me?" He hesitated for a moment, then said, "I trust results." I nodded. "That is fair." He turned to leave, but paused. "By the way, your 12-month trial, if you reach profitability by month 6, I will give you 20% shares instead of 10. I blinked. "Is this your way of encouraging me?" He gave a rare smile. "Consider it an incentive." The next day, I worked even harder. But of course, nothing in the Parker family came easy. That weekend, while I was reviewing budgets at the subsidiary office, a fire alarm blared. Sprinklers rained from the ceiling, flooding the records room. Staff screamed. Chaos erupted. The damage was limited, but our files, especially printed financial records, were drenched. I knew this was not an accident. Back at the mansion, I passed my sister in the hallway. Her thoughts were loud and careless. "Let us see how she runs a company with no records." I stopped and looked her straight in the eye. "Careful, Samantha. You might slip and fall into your own trap." Her smile faltered. She knew I had hurt her. I would not retaliate with anger. I would retaliate with success. In the following days, I called in IT specialists, backup data experts, and legal consultants. Most of our records had digital copies saved securely. By the end of the week, operations resumed. And this time, the Parker family board members took notice. An emergency meeting was called. All eyes were on me. As I entered the conference room, Finn was there. So was Mrs. Parker. The chairman, Mr. Parker, Sr., sat at the head of the table. He pointed at me. "I hear you are not just surviving but thriving. Explain." I took a deep breath and began. I outlined every change, every adjustment, every gain. I handed out clean printed reports, proof of the turnaround. Silence followed. Then Mr. Parker Sr. spoke. "You have done in 3 months what others failed to do in 3 years." He turned to Finn. "Your wife is more useful than we expected." I smiled. This was only the beginning. By the 6th month, I had achieved what I had promised. The failing Parker subsidiary was not only profitable, but it had outperformed 2 of the more established branches. Word spread fast, and with it came a shift in the family's perception of me. Mrs. Parker now introduced me as the daughter-in-law who revived our fortune. At family dinners, the elder sought my opinion. Finn, once cold and distant, now lingered at the table to ask about my day, but success brought enemies. My sister watched all of it unfold with growing resentment. The mask of politeness she wore began to slip more often. Leo, too, seemed less charmed. At events, he stood silently by her side, rarely speaking. One evening, as I returned from a strategy meeting, I heard whispers behind the garden wall. I paused and recognized Leo's voice. You said marrying into the Parker family would bring me power. All I have now is a fading social position and a wife who clings to me like a vine. Then came my sister's voice, trembling but defiant. It is not my fault. She stole everything. You let her. You gave her the spotlight and now expect me to fix it. I stepped away unnoticed. That conversation told me more than they ever would to my face. Back inside the mansion, I found Finn in the study going through documents. Trouble at work? I asked gently. He looked up, his expression unreadable. No, just confirming a few financial irregularities. Someone is leaking internal numbers to competitors. I stiffened. Any idea who? Not yet, he said. But I will find out soon. Something told me my sister was behind it. She had always resorted to underhanded methods when she felt cornered. That weekend, during a high-profile fundraising gala, everything unraveled. The Parker family hosted the event at their downtown hotel. Every major figure in business and politics was present. The media buzzed with anticipation. I wore a simple champagne-colored dress and stayed close to Finn. My sister, in contrast, wore a red gown and seemed to cling to Leo's arm more desperately than ever. As the evening progressed, a sudden shout echoed through the hall. All heads turned as a man stormed in, holding a tablet. Mrs. Parker, he called out. Is this how your family runs its businesses? Security tried to block him, but it was too late. He played a video clip on the screen, a grainy recording of internal Parker financial documents time-stamped and watermarked. It showed budget cuts, layoffs, and private emails between executives. Gasps filled the room. Whispers turned into murmurs of scandal. Mrs. Parker turned to me, her face pale. I immediately turned to Finn. Where is the source? He already had his phone out. We traced the IP. It was uploaded from Leo's device. The room seemed to freeze. My sister rushed forward. No, wait. That is impossible. Leo would never. Leo took a step back. I never sent anything. I left my tablet at home last night. You used it, didn't you? She paled. Mrs. Parker's voice cut through the tension. Escort both of them out. Guards moved. My sister screamed. It was her. Samantha planned this. She is framing me. No one listened. That night, Leah was down from the family business. My sister was placed under investigation for corporate sabotage. Back at the mansion, Mrs. Parker summoned me privately. You knew, didn't you? She asked. I suspected, I answered. But I had no proof. I just waited. She studied me carefully. You are colder than you look. I only protect what is mine. She nodded slowly. Good. That means you are ready for what? For what comes next? A few days later, Finn entered our room holding a slim red folder. I want to revise our agreement, he said. No more marriage of convenience. I blinked. What do you mean? He sat beside me. You built something real. Not just the company, but trust. I do not want to live as strangers anymore. I stared at him. He was not smiling. He looked sincere. What do you want from me? I asked. A real marriage, a real partnership. I want us to move forward together. In my past life, I had never expected love. Not from Finn, not from anyone. But now, hearing those words, a strange warmth bloomed in my chest. I need time, I said. Honestly, you can have it, he replied. For once I felt safe, but I knew the storm was not over. The Parker family still had secrets, and I was ready to uncover them. Weeks passed since the scandal at the gala. My sister had been sent to her family estate in disgrace, far from the public eye. Leo disappeared from the business scene entirely, his reputation shattered beyond repair. The Parker family, known for its ruthless efficiency, moved on as if neither had ever existed. Meanwhile, I continued to grow the subsidiary. With the extra shares Finn had granted me, I became a key shareholder. My voice now mattered in board meetings. My presence commanded respect. But the biggest shift happened within the mansion itself. One morning, Mrs. Parker called me into the greenhouse. The sunlight filtered through the glass ceiling, casting soft shadows across the orchids. You have proven yourself, she said without looking at me. More than I expected. Thank you, Mother. I am stepping back from the family social commitments. You will take over the charity foundation and represent us at public events. I hesitated. Are you sure? She looked at me, then her sharp gaze softening just slightly. This family needs a face that can smile in public and bite in silence. You are capable of both. I bowed. I will do my best. Later that evening, as Finn and I walked through the garden, he turned to me and said, "She sees you as her successor. That is rare. She sees power." I replied. He stopped walking. "And what do you see?" I paused, then answered honestly, "A future, one that I built for myself." He nodded slowly. "You deserve it." We stood in silence for a while until he finally added, "I was wrong about you. You are not fragile. You are not replaceable. You are iron wrapped in silk." For a man like Finn, that was as close to a confession as I would ever get. In the months that followed, I oversaw the rebuilding of our family's reputation. I launched scholarships under the Parker Foundation, expanded investments into sustainable energy, and even brought back a few loyal staff who had been dismissed unfairly in the past. The media began calling me the steel magnolia of the Parker family. But not everything was easy. My sister returned briefly, demanding forgiveness, claiming she had been manipulated by Leo. She wept. She begged. I listened quietly, hearing every false note in her voice. Then I said only one thing. "You taught me how to survive. I will never forget that. But I will never let you near my life again." She stormed out, her tears drying as quickly as they came. From then on, I heard nothing more from her. One evening, as I reviewed a proposal in the study, Finn walked in with 2 cups of tea. He placed one beside me and sat down. "You have not taken a break in days," he said. "I have too much to do." He leaned back, studying me. "Do you regret it?" "Regret what?" "This life? The choices? Marrying me? Everything?" I looked at him. For a long time. At first, yes. But now, no. He nodded, then surprised me by reaching for my hand. We were strangers, forced into a marriage neither of us wanted. But now I cannot imagine facing anything without you. The air between us shifted. The past no longer felt like a burden. It felt like a foundation. That night we did not sleep on opposite sides of the bed. We fell asleep hand in hand. And so I became the woman my sister had never imagined I could be. Not a shadow, not a stand-in, a leader, a wife, and most of all my own person. Because in the end, being reborn was not just about changing fate. It was about choosing who I wanted to become. And this time I chose power, peace, and pride on my terms.